What's up everyone, it's your weather here. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the tropics, where we do have potential tropical cyclone 6 now formed in the Gulf of Mexico. It is expected to be Francine probably by the time I upload this video or sometime later today as it moves to the north, and eventually it will be making landfall as a hurricane along the Texas or Louisiana coastline. On top of that, we also have two areas of interest out in the open Atlantic, both with a 60% chance of development. But today we're going to be focusing on what's going to eventually become Francine and taking a look at the impacts it's going to be bringing to the Texas and Louisiana coastline over the next few days. So taking a look here at the latest outlook from the National Hurricane Center, you can see we do have some tropical storm watches up for the eastern coast of Mexico and the southeastern coast of Texas, and it is expected to strengthen into a tropical storm sometime later today and eventually strengthening into a hurricane by 1 a.m. on Wednesday. Now, in terms of timing for Louisiana, on this map here from the National Hurricane Center, it shows the storm making landfall somewhere near Lake Charles, and this would be Wednesday evening into early Thursday morning. So Wednesday night is when the worst of the impacts will be occurring for Louisiana, Texas, even areas like Mississippi. And by that time, it probably will be a Category 1 or Category 2 hurricane, which we'll take a look at in a second on our forecast models. In terms of rain expected from the National Hurricane Center here, anywhere from 4 inches all the way up to 8, maybe even 12 inches. I think this map is a little conservative, as we'll see in a second when I take a look at the forecast models. They are showing a good amount of rain, a little bit more than this. I think this map is a little conservative, being that the storm is still 4 days away. I would expect these totals to rise, and we'll take a look at the models in a second again here, but still anywhere from 4 to 8 to 10 inches here along the coastlines. Areas, Lake Charles, even a little bit further east of there, you guys should be in the bullseye in terms of rain. Areas like New Orleans, you guys could also see maybe 4 to 6 inches, especially since you guys are on the eastern part of the storm, which typically tends to have more precipitation and more rain. You guys are definitely going to get the brunt end of this storm. So going ahead and taking a look at the GFS model here, you can see we do have a pretty weak storm here in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico right now. And if we move about 48 hours ahead here, you can see a 985 millibar storm in just 48 hours from now. That would be a pretty strong Category 1 hurricane, approaching maybe a weak Category 2 at this point. And this would be Wednesday morning, which is in line with what the National Hurricane Center is thinking, maybe a little bit quicker. And we continue to move ahead here, you can see 974 millibars here right off the coast of Louisiana, and this would be Wednesday night. There'll be a moderately strong Category 2 hurricane approaching the Louisiana coast here Wednesday night. In my last video, I showed you guys that models were kind of all over the place in terms of strength. The GFS was the strongest model, and all the models have kind of consolidated to the GFS model here. They were all pretty strong, showing either a strong Category 1 or weak Category 2 hurricane making landfall here in Louisiana. So definitely not a good scenario compared to where we were a few days ago. Things have definitely uptrended as I predicted. I talked about how the water here in the Gulf of Mexico is pretty much like rocket fuel. Anything that's going to cross over this water here with limited wind shear is really going to take off in terms of intensity. Now, in terms of rainfall here on the GFS model, areas on the coast here are looking at anywhere from 6 to 8 inches of rain. Areas like New Orleans over here, you guys are looking at 4 to 6 inches of rain, maybe even 7 inches here to the east of New Orleans on the coast. So obviously flooding is also going to be a problem on top of this, especially in coastal areas. You are going to get that storm surge, especially to the east of the storm, around here, areas to the southwest of New Orleans. You guys can definitely expect some flooding to be a problem with that storm surge, and on top of that, maybe even 8 inches of rain falling in a very short period of time as the storm moves through Wednesday night. I'm taking a look at the European model here. This is Tuesday night. It is a 993 millibar storm. So if you guys remember the last video a few days ago, it was showing a 1000 millibar storm, a little bit weaker than what other models like the GFS were showing. However, it has kind of caved to this idea that we're going to see a stronger hurricane make landfall here. So moving ahead a little bit now, this is right before landfall. This is early Thursday morning, so a little bit slower than what the GFS was showing, but similar in strength, a 972 millibar storm. This would be a strong Category 1, maybe a weak Category 2, depending on how strong the winds are. But overall, the same general idea here on the European model. A pretty strong hurricane making landfall here in Louisiana late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. That's when you'll be feeling the worst of the impacts here in Louisiana. And taking a look at the rainfall totals here now on the European model, it is pretty similar to the GFS model, maybe a little bit higher in some areas. You see those dark orangish colors. That's almost a foot of rain there on the Louisiana coast near Lake Charles. Areas in New Orleans, again, 6 6 to 8 inches, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. It really depends on whether or not you get those heavier bands through the night as the storm comes on shore. But the same general idea here and the same general thinking as the National Hurricane Center, maybe a little bit higher than what the National Hurricane Center is showing right now, as I mentioned earlier. So I would lean on the higher side of the National Hurricane Center rainfall map right now. Of course, that can change. The storm is still 4 days out. It could strengthen quicker, strengthen slower. Again, this water in the Gulf of Mexico is very volatile, and models can tend to kind of underdo storms that go through this area. So we're definitely going to have to keep that in mind. As we watch the storm develop over the next few days, there is definitely a possibility we could see a stronger storm than what is being shown on the forecast models right now. Switching back here to the GFS model, this is just to give you guys an idea of what the wind is going to be like. Now keep in mind, this isn't going to be 100% accurate, but just giving you guys a general idea of what the wind should be like as the storm comes on shore. And as you can see here, this is right before landfall, so these are 60, maybe even getting up to 70 knot winds, which would translate to about 80 miles an hour. So that is a strong Category 1 hurricane approaching Category 2 strength right before it makes landfall here in Louisiana. And by the time it does make landfall here, you can see again, the strongest winds are going to be to the eastern side of the storm. That's not to say that the winds on the western side of the storm are going to be strong as well, but the worst winds, as usual, are going to be on the eastern side of the storm. Areas like New Orleans, you guys definitely need to watch out for some strong winds here. These are sustained winds here of, 60, 70, maybe even 80 miles an hour here late Wednesday night into Thursday morning. And eventually, as it moves into the coast, it will kind of die down a little bit. Still some pretty strong winds here. 40, 50 mile an hour sustained winds around the center. So if you were anywhere in, a 200 mile radius of the center of the storm, you guys are definitely going to be feeling some pretty strong winds from this Wednesday night going into Thursday morning, and probably throughout the day on Thursday as well as it moves inland. Now, with that being said, I've pretty much gone over everything for this storm for you guys in terms of impacts. We talked about the wind, talked about the rain, and we talked about the timing of the storm as well. So, of course, stay updated with the National Hurricane Center. I will leave a link to their website in the description below. Since the storm is getting a name pretty soon, they will be posting 4 updates a day. So definitely check their website frequently if you are in this area, along the Louisiana coast, the Texas coast, even the Mississippi coast. You definitely want to stay updated on the storm. So with that being said, hope you guys have a great day. Stay safe and peace out.